Let the knowledge begin. This knowledge is just like a lion. It's vigorous. The craving and lust for it will eventually consume you. These beings walk amongst us. They have been amongst us for centuries, undetected. Let us take a look at the multiples of them that have walked and do walk among us.
That study was concluded in 1964 and it was published. And I was still working in the war room at that time. I had access to this document. I had a chance to read it. And having been exposed to it, I must tell you honestly that my life has never ever quite been the same. Because I read first-hand reports, verifiable NATO military material that indicated that the UFOs were not only real, but they represented something far beyond anything I had ever imagined before. When the study was concluded in '64, they concluded that there were 4 different groups apparently coming and visiting us. Out of those 4 different groups, one group looked exactly like we do, so much so that they could sit beside you in a restaurant, or in an airplane, or in a theater, and you'd never know. And that particular point bothered me.
However, this video is going to be specifically about the reptilians.
We're either being surrounded by friggin' UFOs or the Coast Guard. If I want us in, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lights we see there. They've been coming on, they were 7 lights. Oh, this is a big deal.
Now let the creepy shit begin. These are the stories or tales of a warrior class of an extraterrestrial race. As we go into the book, Mount Shasta, Home of the Ancients, edited by Valiant Thor. The Fate of the Lizard People by Valiant Thor. Oh yeah. Y'all go tuck your children in, because we don't want them to hear these type of stories. They might have bad dreams. This for grown-ups. Okay. In 1983, Cassette Willingby of Farrascrees, New Mexico, reported an unusual encounter which took place near Mount Shasta during a visit to the area by Cassette and her husband Kenneth. About 10 years ago, Ken and I were living in San Jose, California, on 2 separate occasions when we made a trip up to Mount Shasta and were on our way home. We stopped off to spend the night at a turnout about 20 miles from Quincy, California. It was a wooded place And just as we got settled in the spot, this strange man came walking down the road in the turnout. As he walked, he turned his head from side to side like a lizard. He carried a very elaborate cane. It had a large ball carved on top with four cobras wound around the stick. On the second time we saw him, I walked out into the little road and said, "My, that's a beautiful cane you have." He acted like he didn't hear me and just walked on past me. He was a white haired man and he was dressed in a white shirt and dark trousers. He was medium height. If I had known all I know now, I would have tried harder to get a response out of him. He seemed to have come out of the woods and he crossed the main road and went back into the woods. Both times he came and went in the same direction. I never will forget him. He swung his head from side to side like a lizard as he walked. He had a reptilian appearance. His cane was made of yellowish wood. He held it by the ball on top. Are there any other references to strange lizard-like people near Mount Shasta? The answer is yes. In 1933, G. Warren Sheffield, a geophysical mining engineer of Los Angeles, reported a tale which he heard from a Hopi Indian of an ancient race of lizard people who long ago went underground to save themselves from a gigantic meteor shower which devastated the West Coast. Out of 13 underground out of 13 underground cities which were built by the lizard people for refuge, one of these cities was reportedly located near Mount Shasta. In the summer and fall of 1933, G. Warren Sheffield was surveying the Los Angeles area for buried deposits of oil, gold, and other valuable materials using a new apparatus of his own invention. His investigations led him back and forth between the public library in the heart of the city to the vicinity of the Southwest Museum at the top of Mount Washington, many miles away. He was deeply puzzled when his instrument showed what seemed to be a pattern of tunnels with large rooms shattered at various points along them and deposits of gold, apparently man-made, in the chambers and passages. But he drew up a map of his discovery and had it copyrighted. Then Sheffield came in contact with Little Chief Greenleaf, whose English name was L. Macklin, a member of the Medicine Lodge of the Hopi Indians in the Arizona. Macklin told Sheffield of a legend long held by his tribe and by some Indians on Mount Shasta, which apparently cleared up the mystery. Now, according to Macklin, the American Indians knew that a lost city was located within a chain of hills, formed like the frog of a horse's hoof. This is exactly the formation of the mountains which surround the city of Los Angeles. The story of the buried city, told by the chief as pieced together by him, goes something like this. The lizard people were the first inhabitants of the American continent and had colonies all over the Pacific coast. Inclined to peace and agriculture, they were much further advanced culturally and intellectually than modern human beings. I gotta repeat that shit. Cause I just ain't heard nothing about this here. Inclined to peace and agriculture, They were much further advanced culturally and intellectually than modern human beings. They were inclined to peace and agriculture. I don't know about this shit. But we're going to read it. This coming from Valiant Thor. Okay? This is the fate of the lizard people. So apparently all of them ain't bad. Okay? But they're ruled by the Draco Royals. So we all know they got a bad reputation of being fuck niggas. But anyway, let us continue. Okay? So they were inclined to peace and agriculture. Gotta say that one more time. They were much further advanced culturally and intellectually than modern human beings. And a 9-year-old child of their race was the equivalent of the present day college graduate. God damn. They revered the lizard and called themselves the lizard people because they recognized reptiles as a symbol of longevity. They claim that the lizard conserves its energy by inhaling for a whole year, exhaling for 3 months, and thus prolongs its life. God damn. Expeditions were sent out in many directions, and while some returned, certain groups settled and populated much of the North American area. The race known as the Mayas was believed to be one such colony that ventured south. Others settled east of the Mississippi River. Between 4,000 and 5,000 years ago, a gigantic meteor shower fell on the western coast of the continent, devastating an area several hundred miles wide. The famous crater near Winslow, Arizona was dug by a portion of this rain of fire. Thousands of Indians were killed, their crops wiped out, their dwellings destroyed, the forests set on fire. The surviving members of the Medicine Lodge, which had remained on the west coast, met to make plans for constructing refuges in case of another such disaster. They chose 13 sites, 3 of them on the Pacific coast, 1 in the state of Washington, another near Mount Shasta, and a third where Los Angeles now stands. Instead of excavating with tools, they used a chemical solution perfected by them, which dissolved the earth and rock that it touched. And they lined the walls of the tunnels and rooms with a cement far better and stronger than any known today. The city in the Southern California area was located under a hill in the middle of a curving ring of surrounding mountains. More than a dozen shafts were sunk, aimed to come together in several places instead of at a single spot where they converged. Rooms were hollowed out and joined with winding passages. Tunnels were constructed which reached to ocean. Nearly 20 miles away, the tides rising and falling in the lower tunnels cleaned and sanitized them. In addition, ventilated the living area by forcing air into the upper chambers. The subterranean city was large enough to house 5,000 people. Food supplies composed of imperishable herbs were stored to enable them to live for an indefinite period of time. Personal property and utensils were conveyed into the crates, along with records and treasures of gold. Then, after some years, sentinels gave warning of another rain of fire from the sky. The lizard people entered the underground city and sealed the shafts behind them. They saved themselves from the falling meteors, but natural gas seeped into the passages and killed the refugees. No one escaped from the lizard city beneath Los Angeles. Of the other 12 cities and their fate, the legend is silent. So convinced were both Shutfelt and Mackling of the truth of the legend and the infallibility of the detecting machine that they determined to sink a shaft down to the subterranean vaults. They located a vacant lot which was a part of the old Banning, formerly Willis, estate at 518 North Hill Street, atop Fort Moore Hill in the heart of Los Angeles, and which was directly above one of the largest rooms. On February 21st, 1933, the County Board of Supervisors of Los Angeles approved a contract with Rex First, McQuarrie, Warren G. Warren G. Warren G. Shutfort, and Ray Martin to search for buried treasure on the old Willis property. Mr. Shufelt had a radio-directed apparatus which reported to be able to locate gold and other precious metals at the great depths. The permittees Mr. Shufelt had a radio-directed apparatus which purported to be able to locate gold and other precious metals at great depths. The permittees were to bear all expenses, leave the property in its original condition, and share 50-50 with the county all treasure discovered. Excavation started February 28, 1933. An offer of a share of the return. An offer of the share of the returns. 12 men were found to help handle the drilling equipment. The county permitted them to dig holes only 50 feet deep, fearing that excavations to a greater depth might cause cave-ins. On March 27, 1933, the permittees requested an extension of time on the permit on the behalf of there existed a labyrinth of tunnels extending 1,900 feet in the length with rooms containing 9,000 square feet of floor space with gold values in at least 16 places. On April 10th, let's get it right. On April 10th, 1933, the contract was renewed. By the end of November 1933, the shaft was down 200 feet. Shutfelt was determined to drill to a depth of 1,000 feet if necessary to reach the catacombs. On January 29, 1934, was the first mention of a lizard people in the Los Angeles newspapers, that is, in the Los Angeles newspapers. One of the 5 shafts was 250 feet deep at this time. The city, according to both the legend and the radio survey maps, was laid out in the form of a lizard. God damn. They built the city in the form of a lizard? That's pretty decent. Where was I? That fucked me up. Okay, I'm back. With its tail under the library at 5th and Hope Street, the body extending northeast, the head being at Lookout and Murder Street near North Broadway. The key room to the city is located under 2nd and South Broadway. The legend states that the key room is the directory to all the rest of the city. So you mean to tell me these reptilians got access to every city? They got underground tunnels to every city because they're living in the crust of the earth. Man, this shit right here. I hope y'all listening to this. Make sure your children are asleep or they are not nowhere near this because it's going to creep them the fuck out, especially if it's nighttime where you at and y'all about to go to sleep. Now, continuing on. And to the record tablets located at many points. The record tablets were slabs of gold, 4 feet long and 14 inches wide, gold having been the symbol of life to the lizard people. Sheffield said that he had taken X-ray pictures which showed 37-inch tablets, 3 of which had one corner cut off. On the tablets, the legend said, would be found records of the origin of the human race and the history of man in the Americas, including the recorded record of the Mayas of Central America and Yucatan. Shutfeld's apparatus depicted the rooms and tunnels as subsurface voids, with the gold slabs as dark areas showing perfect sides, ends, and corners. The rooms, 7 of which occurred within a surface area of 6 square city blocks, vary in size from 23 feet to 33, to 34 square 54 feet. The rooms above which the investigators were sinking their shaft was 31 by 42 feet. The room was one of the smallest of all. Water had apparently seeped into the tunnels to a much higher level than planned by the Indian builders, and several of the rooms, including the largest, was completely filled. Shutfeld had possibly planned to use diving equipment to explore the submerged area when he and his men broke into the subterranean city. Macklin said the lizard people had been able to predict earthquakes and that he himself had predicted the destructive trembler at Long Beach on March 10, 1933, a month in advance. He claimed it was easy for anyone to tell 96 hours in advance when an earthquake was coming because compass needles become demagnetized and refuse to point north. Shutfeld's radio device consisted, so far as could be seen, of a large pendulum suspended in a cylindrical glass case, a mysterious black box, and some compasses. The plummet, attached to copper wire, swayed consistently, pointing towards minerals or tunnels in the ground, and then revolved when directly over the ore deposit, or swinging parallel to the excavation when over a shaft or tunnel. Shutfeld said that the apparatus worked on a newly discovered radio principle involving electrical similarities of matter, which had the same source. The pendulum would trace a line directly from a piece of ore broken from a vein to the vein itself. Some hair placed in the device would lead investigators to the person to whom the hair belonged. The apparatus would operate over a distance of many miles. By tuning into the identification frequency of any matter of which the operator possessed a sample, the vibration of that matter was projected so as to form a profile picture of the object being searched for. The engineer continued. He refused to tell what was in the mysterious box because he had not secured complete patents at that time. But he said that the emanational and gravitational factors of matter motivated the pendulum, and that the important principle was no absolutely separate things were just alike. A retired United States Army colonel who sponsored some of Shutfeld's experiments but asked that his name be withheld, testified that he had been located by the device at the distance of 29 miles after he had given Shutfeld a sample of his hair and blood. The engineer also surveyed the area in which the colonel owned a mine, with the results that he was able to draw up a map of the mine without entering it, which was absolutely accurate. Sheffield said that the machine might be used for locating kidnapped persons, but that he would use it for the purpose only if absolute secrecy was guaranteed. See, they need to be using them motherfucker now. He invented this shit back in 1933. If it can find kidnapped people, then let the games begin. Anyway, let me continue. Shit, they around here bullshitting because they in on it. Now, he added that his life would not be worth very much if criminals knew what the device could do. Ain't that shit the truth? By the beginning of February 1934, the Sheffield-Macklin shaft had reached downward past 250 feet and was still being sunk, despite difficulty caused by water encountered in its path. Several newspaper articles featured articles about the project, but then shortly afterwards, the project was mysteriously halted and then abandoned. I bet you we know why. On March the 5th, 1934, the shafts had been filled in and the contract was canceled. Neither gold nor other treasure, if discovered, was ever turned over to the county. Mr. Arch M. Dunning of the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce stated in December of 1947, it is quite possible, of course, that the supposed labyrinth really exists. But in view of the fact that the overland area is in the immediate civic center area where an important building program is to be carried out, including federal, state, county, and city buildings, there is little probability of any further excavations. In 1982, the following very interesting statement was made by Cosette Willingby. Although at the time she was not aware of the lizard people story or of the possible connection, this may have had to be it. Years ago, I heard that there was a tunnel that led from the library in Los Angeles to Mount Shasta. The way to gain entrance to this tunnel was to ask to see a painting of Christ that's supposed to hang in the library. Perhaps this is just an unfounded rumor created at the whim of someone prone to telling tall tales, but it does raise the question of whether there is an underground connection between the underground city beneath Los Angeles and its counterpart at Mount Shasta. It is also interesting to note here that the tail rooms of the Lizard City, according to Sheffield, were beneath the public library. And what of the strange lizard man observed by Cassett walking through the forest near Mount Shasta? Was he perhaps a resident of the other fabled city which somehow, along with its inhabitants, survived the fatal meteor shower of some 5,000 years ago? Shit. Well, that's for everybody to come up with their own conclusions and theories, or if you have witnessed any of these beings, come forward and let us know. Until then, may the force be with you.
Hey yo, peace fam, Source God, Ryan TV, bang, 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 more life, bliss up family, abundance, you done know. So yeah, family, this is one of the reasons I have so much trust issues with people. Because unlike most people, I've been basically interacting with reptilians my entire life. Like, I know they're real. I'm not asking anyone, I'm telling, I know, okay? And this person here I used to chop with, a mob, real life, fuck with hard, got exposed on my live twice. You understand? It's not a one-time thing. Their eyes slid out, turned completely white with the slit. All right, family? This is why I have trust issues. My ex-landlord in Cali, he was one of them too. Slit eyes. This nigga loved me. Best friends. One day he shows me his eyes. He just showed me. He just showed me the slits. He just took his glasses off, slitted his shit out right in front of me to see how I'd react. I didn't have a reaction. I just kept it cool. You know what I mean? But I left Cali shortly after that. You feel me? But family, on a real level, I am telling you, these creatures, they're everywhere. And they love the seed of Adam. I don't know what the fuck it is. They're obsessed with us. Obsessed. A reptilian bitch wants me more than a reptilian nigga. You understand? Reptilian motherfucking dudes want to hang out with me and be best friends. And they're fully reptilian. I don't know what the fuck it is. I don't know what is about me. But this is why I have trust issues. And I don't need any more receipts. Millions of people have seen this. All right? It's just a fact at this point. All right? I don't trust anybody because 90% of the people walking this planet are this. All right? And they fuck with me. They follow me, chop with me, make money with me, all kind of thing. And they're a reptilian. Now, I'm not judging anyone. I don't give a fuck. But guess what? There's a reason why niggas is hiding. All right? They hiding who they really are. And family, this is the majority of society. Here's more proof for you, more receipts from the source God. I don't fuck around. I was sent this by one of the mob, all right? They kept this in their archives, I guess, and sent it to me. You see me? Yeah, man. But family, anyway, I want to stay up, stay bliss, and just know yourself in this time and know who you're dealing with.